welcome to another episode of Wellness with EAC. I'm Nicole Gwanzura, and I have the privilege of being your host. On this podcast, we talk about career wellness and how that intersects with our personal and professional lives. We're going to sprinkle in a little bit of our faith journeys as a believer. That is always going to be a part of the conversation for me and my lens and perspective in life. The month of May, we've been talking a lot about mental health awareness. It is Mental Health Awareness Month. While this is a month we often just do a spotlight on it, it is something that we should be conscientious of all the time. Last week, we talked with Dr. Denise Anderson. If you have not heard that episode yet, go back one episode and listen to our conversation. We talk a lot about the various aspects of mental well-being from a public health perspective, but we also tap into topics like grief and topics around how we manage healing and things of that sort, and even more. Plus, also, if you just want to hear from an extremely accomplished business owner, professional, and just all around incredible Black woman, Dr. Denise is one you want to talk to and hear from. Now, for today's episode, it's going to be a solo episode. So it's you and I back to chatting one-on-one. I love these conversations. I love hearing from you and your feedback. Today, I want to talk about wellness in pursuit of the American dream. Let's just sit on that for a second. Is that a term you're familiar with? Have you heard of what the American dream is? Maybe you're in pursuit of it for yourself. Maybe you gave up on it. Maybe it's just a fleeting thought that you've kind of heard and dismissed. But there is this age-old dream, right? When, especially I think from an immigrant's perspective, when you move to America, America is kind of this land of milk and honey, so to speak, right? Life is going to be that much better, that much greater. I've just got to get to the United States. And so my journey began when my family moved to the United States 20 years ago, y'all. It has been 2 whole decades that I've lived in this country. We went through this process. Went through the visa process, then became green card holders, then pursued our American citizenships. So I guess now you can technically call me African American because I'm an African who has American citizenship, and that's kind of how I view African American. It's always an interesting debate. It's new terminology that I learned. I've always identified my whole life as a Black person, as a Black woman. So that's how I still identify today. But it's always interesting when I look at terminology that shares or has me identifying as African American. But my journey then, right, it's been 20 years since we came to the United States for better educational opportunities. And let me tell you something, it was nothing like what we saw on TV. I think I talked about this in a previous episode, so I don't want to hang on too much about it, but just wanted to refresh you on that part. My siblings and I were coming in for better opportunities. My parents brought us to the US. My mom had done her research on where she wanted us to be in Virginia. We went through Fairfax County. Shout out to Fairfax County Public Schools. That's where we went to school, for anybody who's familiar with that. It was a great education coming here. I had a really great education in Zimbabwe as well. Zimbabwe is one of the most literate and most educated countries in all of Africa. So I was coming from a really good background there in terms of education. Just the economy wasn't as great as it could be. And so coming to the United States opened up opportunities. I went ahead and finished middle school, high school, undergrad, university, as well as my graduate degree, all here in the United States. So became really well acquainted with the U.S. education system, a graduate of several of of the systems within the schools. But also in the pursuit of that, right, there is this American dream. So yes, you get your education, but also growing up, you're seeing a lot of these houses with the white picket fence and this happy, peppy family, and you're watching certain movies, and you have this depiction of what this life looks like. When you're younger, you have no idea of how much it actually costs to live there, not just financially, but also who you've got to be as a person, how you've got to navigate life to end up in that space. And so I want to share three quick tips around the pursuit of that American dream, right? And you can apply this to any kind of dream you have or any kind of major goal that you have. But three tips that have really helped me as I'm learning lessons from looking back, and also managing how I look at life going forward, and also how I talk to clients and students about just the pursuit of their goals. So just kind of thinking back to my journey, right? The first thing I want you to recognize is the dream looks different for everyone, right? So if you're saying, I'm coming to the United States, my American dream is to be the most educated person in my family. I'm going to get a doctorate. I'm going to be Dr. So-and-so. I'm going to be the first in my family, whatever that looks like, right? But for a family member, it might be, my American dream is to run a company for myself, to own a business, and to do things with great impact in this way. And somebody else could have a very different dream. So accepting that, first of all, and recognizing that it looks different for everybody. And maybe there is somebody who wants a combination. Hey, I want it all. I want to try it all. I want to be in pursuit of the things that just make my heart sing, the things that make me really happy. So I'm going to try a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And if it doesn't work out, okay, we'll pivot. And if it does, okay, great. How do we scale that? So once we recognize that, then I think we can recognize it, set it in our heads, and then move on to continue to pursue our journey, right? Because a lot of times you're looking at, well, I don't know, is my dream really my dream anymore? What about that person? What are they doing? Maybe I could be doing that. Oh, no. Maybe I should try that, right? I'll give you an example. Sometimes as a business owner, you'll tend to look and see, there's webinars. Somebody says, how I made 6 figures overnight, how I made 7 figures overnight. And by figures, I mean the number of zeros afterwards. So how I made 6 figures. So it might be 100,000 and going up, right? There's 6 figures in that number. And if you're going to 7 figures, you're now getting across that over 1 million. But somebody's just telling you, I made this much money in my first year of business. Then all of a sudden you're confused. Well, am I really doing my best here? Is what I'm doing going to get me to my goal or to achieve this thing that I want to do? How come that person is able to get there faster? How come that person is able to do this a little bit faster? And you get caught up in the rigmarole of, I want to try something else. I want to do something else. You're never going to achieve your goal if you try to run someone else's race. Some great advice I heard on a podcast I was listening to a couple of years ago, and I've loved that. I believe that it was advice from an executive at Nike, actually, that I was listening to. And that really stood out for me. So just recognizing that the dream can look a little bit different. So do what makes you happy, right? Don't really give into that external pressure, because also people on the internet can lie. People will lie, and they will convince you of something that they haven't even achieved or have even reached that goal. So don't worry about them. Worry about you. Worry about what's going to impact you and your life and the things that you love, right? That is tip number 1. Tip number 2 is, don't rush the process. Where are my planners? Where are my, maybe we'll call, okay, type A, even sometimes type B. I don't know who the type B folks are, but type A, usually you are super, super focused. It has to go a certain way, right? Things might get a little discombobulated if you're not sticking to your plan. So it has to work accordingly. And you're stickler about this checklist, right? The checklist that you have set for how things should work, how things should continue to evolve in your life from one step to the other, right? We often fall for that, especially when we are going through our careers, right? I have to do this so that I can get to this step, so that I can get to this step, so that I can get to this step in order to achieve some level of success, whatever our proverbial definition is of success. So we're rushing through, rushing through, and not recognizing that we need to also acknowledge what's going on through the journey, right? We need to also acknowledge that maybe some of our breakthrough is coming from taking time to smell the roses, taking time to acknowledge what's going on, taking time to acknowledge that maybe there might be a pivot that is coming through, taking time to acknowledge all of those things throughout the journey. Maybe that's where those little successes are coming from, right? That's when you see the everyday miracles, all the small miracles. And let's be real, tomorrow's not guaranteed. So as you're rushing through something, you may not even get to that final goal, or your route may be so so shifted that you're going to have to pursue something different, right? But it can be difficult for some of us that just want a checklist life. And I'll give you an example of something that I'm kind of unlearning. I went through this list of who I thought I needed to be, right? And who I needed to be to achieve success. But I was barreling through this list and not necessarily embracing all of the moments. So like I said, I went through, after high school, went on to get my bachelor's. After my bachelor's, not too long after, went on to get my master's because I just wanted it to be done. I wanted it to be pursued, and just checked off. In my native language of Shona, we'll say something like "kuti jindibve." Jindibve, like I just wanted it jindibve. That means essentially like just for it to be like off my shoulders, just off my shoulders. And so that's what I wanted to do. I wanted it to just be off my shoulders, checklist, done, you know what, and then that's it. And then you just kind of bury it away. And if you look in my office closet right now, both of my degrees are still in the envelope. Um, Shameful secret, right? Coming out. They're still in the envelopes and I've yet to frame them. I'm not going to tell you how many years ago when I got those degrees. I've yet to frame them. I don't know what moment I'm looking for. I don't know what time I'm looking for, but it's time for them to come and recognize that, right? So you're going through the checklist, and then I had a time. Oh, I want to be engaged by this age. And then I want to be married by this age. And this is what I want to do and achieve. And then we're going to have kids. And then the kids, you know, this is how it's going to look like. So yes, I got engaged and married around a very similar time than, you know, around what I had envisioned. I got married to my college sweetheart. So it also helped. We were just kind of navigating school and education together and motivating each other. So my partner was built in to help me go through life and do life together and motivate me. And also from engagement to marriage is pretty quick because it's a very traditional process. That'll be a conversation for another day. It's not even career related, but if anybody ever wants to know about a Rora process or traditional bride price process or anything like that related to the Shona culture and Zimbabwean culture, comment, let me know. Maybe I'll film an episode on it. But anyway, so go through the marriage process, all of that. Then we had kids a couple of years later, not too long after we had our first baby. And in the meantime, also kind of growing in my career. This is what I want to do. This is what I'm aligning to. And the next thing, we have another baby. And all of a sudden, oh, our house is too small. We need more space. We need more space for tiny humans, but we need more space. So then we get out of that house. Oh, we've got to buy a house. So then we're going through the next step, right? The next thing on the list, which is to buy a home. And it was such a blessing. Don't get me wrong. It has been such a blessing. We were able to settle into our new home before our son was born. And so now if you're trekking with me, I've run through this list and guess how long it took me between undergrad and closing on our house to get through that whole checklist. I'll have you wait a second. It didn't really take that long, honestly. It took less than 10 years to get there. It was really, really quick, actually, to get to that place. And so it was less than 10 years. It was about 9 years to get from graduating from college to buying a home, and having kids and getting married and getting another degree and going through, my first career into the next career. And so I had all of that checked off by the age of 30. All those things, age of 30, I was good to go, done. And then what? What are you going to do next? How are you now processing what happens next? I'm not saying I regret any of it. I love it. I love, I love my life. And there's things that I could have cherished more in those moments, right? Instead of looking for the next thing all the time, you just sit and cherish. My husband and I will talk about that. We're like, why didn't we do this, young professional living in DC and have a cute little apartment downtown and things like that? We were just rushing to live our grown-up lives. So sometimes you just don't need to rush it. Take your time, enjoy it. And then also when you do have it, make sure to again, take your time and enjoy it. So don't rush. That's my second piece of advice. We talked first about how the journey looks different for everyone. And then second, don't rush. And then my third and final tip and piece of advice is don't give up on that dream. Don't give up. Because when you look around and you realize, okay, how many of these things around me are answered prayers? I was having a conversation with my bestie, and we were just having this conversation about living in answered prayers. But if we don't stop to recognize that, we keep praying for more, wanting for more, seeking for more, but not realizing these things, what I'm surrounded by, this home, these kids, this husband, this life, this business, all this stuff, these are things I prayed for. These are things that I didn't have at one point in life that I do now. So while there's other things, yes, I'm still in pursuit of that give me lots of great energy, that give me motivation. Where I am right now is a beautiful place. There is so much to be thankful for, even in the imperfections of life, even in the struggles, even in the challenges. There is so much to be grateful for in this season. And why? It's because I just kept going, right? In my pursuit. One of my favorite Bible verses, Galatians 6:9, talks about do not become weary in doing good, right? For at the proper time, you'll reap a harvest. And so that is exactly what I was reflecting on and was talking to my bestie about, is just living in this answered prayer, right? Because we didn't give up. We just kept going. So at the proper designated times, we're reaping harvests as a result. And so I just want to encourage you with that, because sometimes it's just, you know what, I'm going to give it up. I'm just not going to do it. But sometimes maybe it's not about giving up the whole dream. It's giving up or shifting and pivoting the how you're in pursuit of it, right? So for me, I always say my business has had EAC is almost 3 now. The business itself, right? The mission has not shifted. The mission of supporting university professionals and giving them the tools, career wellness curriculum tools to better support their first generation, low income students and students with, access barriers, right, to resources, giving them the tools to equip those students for career success, right? From a lens of financial literacy, mental well-being, and professional development. That has not changed, but the how, that has shifted. I've had to pivot that. And whether it's responding to the market, whether it's responding on, niching down a little bit more, whether it's responding with who we want to serve in particular at the universities, that has had to shift. And also tapping into serving some more high school students in that career and technical education space. But the who we serve, right? The who we serve has never changed. It's the how we serve that has had to shift. And that's okay. But the dream itself will always continue. My why of why I do this will always continue to be the same. And that is to continue to provide opportunities that go beyond me, generational wealth building opportunities, generational opportunities that my children's children will still be able to benefit from, that there will be a legacy that is left behind, but not just for my family, but the families of every single student we connect with, of every professional that we connect it with. That is my why. That does not shift. So I encourage you today, dear listener, don't give up on your dream. If you need to shift the how, that's great. That's what mentors are for. That's what sponsors are for. That is what just having a good listening ear is for. However, don't give up on the pursuit of your American dream, or insert whatever that dream looks like, right? If you're not based in these United States, then your dream looks a little bit different. I'm just speaking to it from the lens of this girl from Zimbabwe who only knew one perspective of life, who ended up settling in the United States for better opportunities, not even knowing what was ahead. And now look at where I am 2 decades later, still in pursuit of what that looks like, but enjoying the journey along the way, putting together pieces of my puzzle along the way. So I just encourage you to keep pursuing your dream, whatever that looks like. And until next time, take care, be well, subscribe to the podcast. Can't wait to hear more of your feedback. Keep telling us what other episodes you'd like to hear from. Take good care, and I'll see you next Wednesday.